Good afternoon and welcome to the April 25th Environmental Advisory Council meeting in Radnor Township. I am going to kick the meeting off this afternoon with a review and approval of the previous meeting's minutes. Our last meeting was on March 28th. Does anybody have any comments or corrections on those minutes? Okay, motion to approve.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. All right, announcements. I have a few, a little less than normal, but I do want to repeat one of them that I talked about, or two of them that I talked about last month. And one is the Radnor Township's Township Managers Beautification Award Program. The registration for this program is open, and it's going to be open through September. So this will be the last time I'll announce it for a little while. I won't announce it all the way through September, but this is a neat one. Radnor Township is partnering with the Community Garden Club at Wayne, and they are sponsoring this program, which is intended to recognize residents and businesses who have taken exceptional care of their homes and businesses, and whose extra effort into the exterior beautification of their property is well evidenced. All Radnor Township residents and businesses are eligible to participate, and nominations can be called in or emailed to the office of the Township Manager. And there's more to read about that on the radnor.com website. Secondly, I wanted to remind everybody about the Delaware Valley Green Building Council's 2013 Green Building Celebration. This is being held on Thursday, May 2nd, 6 to 9 p.m. at the World Cafe Live in Philadelphia. On the site, it describes it as the community's favorite event of the year, and it will be even more celebratory as they look forward to Green Build 2013 in Philadelphia this November. So this is a Green Building Celebration event is kind of being seen as a kickoff to the Green Build 2013. And it's going to be featuring food, drink, music, and even some homegrown entertainment. This annual celebration, which last September was held at the Barnes Foundation, is guaranteed to be the most fun green building event of the spring. Tickets available on the dvgbc.org website.
What was the date?
That is May 2nd, Thursday, May 2nd. And again, we'll have all these announcements on the minutes of this meeting, which can be you can get them on our EAC website, radnor.com. Next, I wanted to mention something called the Pennsylvania Environment Ride. It is organized for the benefit of the Pennsylvania Environmental Council, PEC, and it is a 160-mile, 3-day bike ride from the Susquehanna to the Schuylkill River, and riders will commit to raise funds to support PEC's important trail and greenway work. You can register online at www.environmentride.org, and you can also find a little bit more information on the PEC website, which then will link you to that environmentride.org. I didn't get much more about the event. It is coming up fairly soon, so I guess if you're in shape and you're a bike rider, you can sign right up and join in. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday in May. Lastly, I wanted to mention, I just found out as I walked in the door here at the Township buildings, posted on the wall is their recycling day that the Township is sponsoring, and it's entitled Anything with a Plug. June 15th, 2013, so 2 months from now, between 9 and 1 p.m. at the Willows. And they said on the announcement that, quote, all data media will be destroyed or wiped. So that is supposed to give you a little bit of comfort if you have that old desktop PC lying around and you never know what to do with it. You know, geez, there might be an account number or something like that on there. They're trying to reassure you that anything that has media such as that will be either destroyed or wiped before it's recycled.
So is that, you said anything with a plug?
It says anything with a plug.
Okay. So
and the last time,
electronic.
The last time they had one of these events a few months ago, I brought it. I brought a very varied things with apply. I brought a TV, a desk fan, and something else. But on the you should know that on the Pennsylvania DEP website there is there's a little blurb about a new regulation in Pennsylvania that says basically that anything with a plug is not allowed to go in your regular trash, which is why this event is anything with a plug.
Free?
Yeah, sure. Yep, it's free.
And no size limits on the television.
Sorry, Sloan. So your cabinet TV from the 1970s is still stuck in your basement. I'm sorry. Does anybody have any other announcements?
No.
Okay. Moving right along. We'll enter our work group reports and discussion. And our first work group is the Radnor Green Team. And what we're going to talk about today is the progress we're making in our individual work groups that we formed with individuals that are in the Radnor Green Team. We had a lot of, as you might recall, we had a lot of action items in our greenhouse gas reduction action plan. But in order to sort of make some progress on some low-hanging fruit, we decided to pick five of the action items that we wanted to attack first, either because they were easiest or because they were the lowest hanging fruit or something that was already happening. So I'll remind you what those groups are and who the EAC member that's liaising with the Green Team. I am working on street lights and traffic signals. Robin Mann is working on the green power purchasing. Sally is working on two related building efficiency improvements. I think one was lighting and one was efficiency in general. Sloan is working on the greening of the fleet vehicles, and Ann on the green procurement policy. So some of us I know have made great progress. Some of us, have made none, and some of us are in between. So what I'd just like to do is just in that order, just start off, and if anybody has anything to announce on your work group, let us know. I'll start with myself. Street lights and traffic signals are through Public Works, Steve Norsini and maybe somebody else as well that are on the Green Team, and I have yet to make contact with them, so I'm a little behind, so I will make that a priority this month. Robin, she's not going to make it here tonight, but she did have some contact with the Township, with the Green Team on the green power purchasing, but I don't know how far she's gotten, so we'll have to wait till next month to get a report, or sometime in between to get a report on green power purchasing from her. Sally, have you had any chance to get moving forward on the green or building efficiency improvements?
Yes, we met this morning. I met with both the contact for the building lighting and the two contacts for the lighting retrofit, and I forget how they're calling it. But anyway, and the second one is building recommissioning. And because recommissioning often would include lighting, I figured it made sense to at least initially all meet together. So basically, a lot of what it was this morning was them just sort of filling me in on what's happened so forth, and I had a lot of questions about how this process would work going forward. So I got some questions answered. After some discussion, we basically decided that we kind of have to wait until the middle of June to really make definite plans, because we need to find out what's happening with some of the buildings that are owned by the township that we might address or not, depending on what happens. So once that kind of gets settled a little bit, we'll be in a better position to move forward with specifics.
So I think I might know what you're talking about in terms of changes to the buildings. Is that public knowledge, or I mean, in terms of what's happening with these buildings, or?
I don't know what's public and what's not.
Well, things like that this building may be used.
Get your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know that there's a plan underway to convert at least part of this building to be used by the senior center.
Right, that's one thing, and it's, my understanding is that's not completely definite yet.
Okay.
So one question is, will that happen? And if so, then what happens to the senior center building?
Right.
Things like that.
Right, okay,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because the use would change from an office space to senior center space or whatever. And so that would change our the lighting strategy on the second floor of this building. So yeah, it makes sense to wait. And also just to remind you that the senior center is included in our greenhouse gas inventory. So we'll have to make sure they shut the lights off when they leave the senior center.
Right.
Right.
Okay, Sloan, you want to talk a little bit
Sure.
about greening the fleet?
Right, so we have a sub-team working on looking at the options for greening the fleet, and this is obviously focused on the vehicles, the township vehicles, police cars, trucks, and light-duty vehicles. We've had one call with Steve Norsini was on it, Lori DeNicola from the police department, and Tammy Cohen as well. It's a good call from Parks and Rec. It was a good call. Steve laid out the inventory of the heavy-duty vehicles and talked about how it's difficult to find a lot of green options for those big rigs because, for one thing, there aren't a lot of good alternative vehicles available at this point. There's some that are coming down the road in the future, things like natural gas vehicles. He's aware of that. He's looking at that. But right now, that's not the low-hanging fruit. That's probably few years away before that would be a realistic option for the township. Although we're monitoring it, and there are some grants available for natural gas vehicles at the state level. Looking at that, but that isn't the first area of focus. It looks like the most obvious thing to focus on first are what Steve referred to as the administrative vehicles, the light duty, the cars, the small. There's a small Jeep, and used by folks who are not going to emergency rescue operations, things, engineer, Parks and Rec vehicles, and there he feels quite optimistic that there could be opportunities to roll those vehicles into cleaner vehicles, things like hybrids, and he's got a process that involves looking at what vehicles are good candidates for replacement, and figuring out the costs involved, and he would like our help in figuring out what the options are, and I offered to look for any grants available. So if anybody learns of any grants or source of funding for that sort of initiative, that would be great. But we're gonna meet again in a couple of weeks and look at. He's gonna the full Green Fleet team is going to look at the number of vehicles, the age, and try to zero in on the vehicles that are the best candidates. And hopefully there'll be a few that might be available as soon as this year for consideration in the budget that would be developed in the next few months. So that's where we are. We're gonna, we'll keep looking at it, and hopefully, sharpen some pencils and look at what the costs are, and how to proceed. So, as I said, if anybody has any thoughts on grants or other interesting financing available for that type of light duty vehicle, please let me know, and I'll make sure that the sub team knows about it.
Not to be a curmudgeon, but more of a process question. Is part of, like, from a green standpoint, is part of Steve or their department's process to reevaluate kind of the applicable use of certain cars for certain functions? Like, where the cutoff is between medium duty, light duty,
Yeah,
and then whether even like a car is necessary.
Yeah, I got the feeling that there's a lot of thought that goes into the different categories. He provided a partial inventory that showed the range of vehicles, and there are a number of vehicles used by the. One of the things that they try to do is to try to have as flexible a vehicle as possible for each slot, meaning they try not to have a lot of very specialized vehicles that can only be used, for certain things, because they want vehicles that can be used in a lot of different scenarios. So that's one of the things that will reduce the list of true light duty or administrative vehicles further than it would otherwise be reduced, because there are going to be some trucks that most of the time are really not heavy duty, but some of the time might be out plowing or doing something that does demand a bigger vehicle. So the township prefers for many of the vehicles to have something that has wide capability. Bottom line, we'll see, and I hope that the list of administrative vehicles will be reasonably a fairly long list. I mean, hopefully it's not just one or two, and so we could have a few candidates, for the first round.
That's great.
But I'll keep you posted. And so far it seems like a promising initiative at this point.
So just something came to mind when you said you have a list of vehicles.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have the amount of fuel that the vehicles burn?
Yeah, Steve did a nice job of basically breaking out, and I apologize I didn't make additional copies, but he broke out not only the vehicle and the department, so police department, but also the total miles on the car, so sort of how far along in its useful life it is, whether it's gas or diesel, and certainly some of the trucks, that are heavy-duty trucks, to the extent that they are diesel, can get a better fuel efficiency rating than if they're gas.
What about how much fuel they used
And
in a
then
year?
total gas, he's listed the total gas used by year, and some of them are, quite high. It's, some of them have, in the multi-thousands of dollars of fuel, and then the miles per gallon by vehicle.
Great.
And some of them are very, very low, 2-3 miles to the gallon for certain vehicles.
The trash trucks are
trash
down there,
trucks
yeah.
and everything. And we talked a little bit about how in that case there may not be a lot we can do right now in terms of getting a electric trash truck or something, but we could look at driver training and sort of coaching the folks who are out there day to day about how to drive in a way that will improve the mileage. So that's one thing we'll look at. But going through it, it doesn't look like as I said, there's a lot to be done in the heavy duty category, and frankly, with the police department, outside of their administrative vehicles, I'm not sure how much we'll be able to do, at least in the first round, because of the demands on the cruisers and other vehicles. They do have some light duty vehicles there as well, used by detectives, so we can see what's appropriate. But stay tuned. I hope, as I said, it's several vehicles, and several vehicles that could be good candidates for hybrids, and so far it seems like there's an openness at the township level for that idea.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sloan. That's great progress. Ann is not here. She was going to tell us a little bit about some progress she made with the green procurement policy. I think she just made first contact, really, to begin to have one of these meetings set up. I'm not sure she actually did have the meeting yet, but she'll give us an update later. One thing I did want to mention, and It didn't make this top 5 list of action items, but it's come up quite a bit, and I think we might consider making it a 6th action item, and that is the the sustainable parks policy that we recommended last year. If you recall, there was some citizen concerns about the use of herbicides on the Radnor Trail, and our recommendation after considering that at the end of that process, we recommended that the township develop a sustainable parks policy, and it killed 2 birds, so to speak. One, the reduced mowing that we have recommended in our greenhouse gas action plan as a means to reduce the amount of fuel that we use, right? Could be worked into a sustainable parks policy, and so could the use of recommendations on the use of herbicides and pesticides and fungicides. We thought that they had a place in the township, but probably should be in a policy on how we would go about using them. Now, recently, there's been, at one of the more recent Board of Commissioner meetings, we heard, Sloan and I heard a presentation on a Canada geese problem. Specifically, I think the one we heard most about was at the Willows. And there's been just some discussion on how to handle this Canada geese problem. And some of them was culling, just like the deer. Let's kill them.
Don't want to be an animal in Radnor.
No, God, we don't allow animals in Radnor.
Have you seen all these squirrels?
Kill the squirrels too. I'm thinking that this is a great opportunity to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. There are ways to. Yes, there are ways I'm familiar with ways of managing Canada geese problems through the habitat management. How high do you let the grass grow? What do you do around ponds and so I think we should after this meeting, by email or whatever, we should maybe come up with a plan on. I know. Dan and I have had some contact with what's Parks and Rec? Yeah, Luke, our liaison, to and sort of kick this off a little bit. So I think it's a great time to do it. I know the township has thought that it was a good idea to have a sustainable parks policy. I think we can make that our sixth subgroup, work group.
Yeah, I can head that up if you want.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I can support you on that.
Okay, great.
I'd like to get involved in one of these.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, great.
Perfect. All right. Well, then, hopefully we can get an update next month on that one.
For the record, shame on me for not paying attention to the commission meeting. Is it a legitimate qualm? Are we being overrun of geese, more than normal?
Oh yeah, they came up with data. They had data on that. It was.
This wasn't just like a gripe out of what are all these birds doing here?
I think it was the gripe came from their problem with feces, to be honest with you, and he explained some other problems. I'm not sure if anybody's been attacked or anything like that, but I know that there was some water quality problems in the pond that they attributed to feces and people stepping on it and stuff like that. But
it'd be interesting to see if there's any data on migration paths.
Well,
it's a seasonal thing.
He
did present on that as well.
On that.
Yeah, he said, he explained that there's basically two types of geese these days. They're the same goose, basically, but some have now developed into non-migrating geese, and they just hang out all winter because there's a lot of lawn available. People, so they don't have to fly south anymore. Yeah, but I think they had the presentations on the Radnor.com website. I think there's a PowerPoint presentation on the geese. Moving along to sustainability work group. Sloan, can you give us a little bit on water sense?
Yeah. Well, to start with, we had Josh and I went to the Board of Commissioners meeting 2 weeks ago and asked for their support of the EAC resolution in favor of a state tax holiday for WaterSense and Energy Star products. And after we gave our spiel and got a few questions, some of which were feisty, I'd say, we were very appreciative of their support. They did vote to support it and join the EAC and the Radnor Conservancy, which also their boards voted to support this resolution. So we thank the Board of Commissioners. And in terms of next steps, we'd like to invite other EACs to support this as well. I know, Josh, you're going out to talk to a neighboring
Valley Township.
And I'm happy to join you if needed to talk about the tax holiday. Love to talk to some other EACs as well. We were talking before the meeting about the changes at the Pennsylvania Environmental Council, and it looks like it may be a little harder to get EAC lists and networking information, but I'm sure we can figure out how to do that. And then also like to reach out to the Pennsylvania Retailers Association. And it turns out that the Retailers Association, about 10 or 13 years ago, were instrumental in getting a state tax holiday for computers in place under Governor Ridge. And I'm looking into it, but it looks like it was quite a successful effort. And as I talked to a couple of states that have Energy Star, WaterSense tax holidays, they said it's great to get the retailers involved. They can really help publicize a tax holiday. So I haven't yet, but I will be reaching out to the Pennsylvania Retailers Association to see if they're interested in joining the effort. And then hopefully we can also get some some interest from a state legislator, at least to get a bill out there. I think the chances are probably, it's a long haul to get something through, but at least if we could get something introduced, it could actually begin a dialogue. So would love to any thoughts, any suggestions are welcome, and I'll certainly keep everybody posted. And in terms of the WaterSense tip of the month, WaterSense is focusing on sprinkler spruce-ups at this time of year. Irrigation water use facts. Residential outdoor water use across the United States accounts for nearly 9 billion gallons of water each day, mainly for landscape irrigation. And they estimate that almost as much as half of the water we use outdoors is being wasted. So this is an area that really is a good area to focus on for water savings. They suggest things such as using an automatically timed irrigation system, which they estimate can use about 50% less water than those without. And they also make the recommendation there, small broken or missing sprinkler heads can waste as much as 25,000 gallons of water and cost more than $90 per 6-month period. So their recommendations: inspect, check your system for clogged, broken, or missing sprinkler heads. To connect, examine points where the sprinkler heads connect to pipes and hoses. If water pools in your landscape, you could have a leak in the system. And even a very, very small leak the size of a tip of a ballpoint pen could waste 6,300 gallons of water per month. then direct, make sure that you're not watering your driveway or your house or your sidewalk instead of your yard. And then select, meaning an improperly scheduled irrigation controller can waste a lot of water and money. So update your system schedule with the seasons. And they have a lot of information on the WaterSense site to help do all that. So that's the official WaterSense update.
Great. On that page, did they mention anything about systems that took into account the soil moisture? Like, for instance, it wouldn't let the sprinklers run if it had just rained for the past 2 days?
They do have a lot of detail like that, and they also rate different systems. Like Energy Star, they have ratings for the irrigation systems. So I think it's a great resource with a lot of detail. So
The website?
this is WaterSense. It's literally watersense.gov that has all these tips, and it's like Energy Star. It is a program sponsored by the EPA that provides a lot of information about water efficiency and also provides labeling of products that are the most water efficient or meet water efficiency standards. So it's the counterpart to the Energy Star system, which rates energy products for energy efficiency.
Great, thanks, Sloan. Moving along to community environmental education and awareness. This is a topic that I've reinserted into the agenda because we had a couple of things happen this month that I thought you guys would like to know about. First is I volunteer on the Wayne Elementary School's PTO green subgroup. They call it the Green Committee or something like that. But we were very active this month, it being Earth Month, I guess, and I want to let you know what we were doing. Two things at Wayne. First, we had, on Earth Day itself, after school, we had a birdhouse painting program. So we had 36 kids. We painted almost 50 birdhouses. We supplied each kid with a birdhouse, and they got to design it themselves and paint it and then take it home. And then I had given them mounting instructions and how to get the best results out of it. So that was very successful. I mean, to be frank, I was not expecting that many people. So it was quite fun. It was challenging, but a lot of fun. And I have tried to develop a little relationship with the Radnor Birdtown group, and this didn't have anything to do with them, but I think they could learn a lot from this program and how to expand it to the other elementary schools, the other schools, private schools or community groups. It's a great way to develop habitat, really, for birds. So that was our Earth Day program, and it was very successful. I was very happy about that.
Did you just put that together yourself, or was that through some sort of program?
Just put it together myself.
Nice.
Yep.
All right.
All the kudos to that not hobby store, but a craft store called Michael's. They must have 20 different kinds of birdhouses there, and with a coupon, they all came to about $4 each.
Really?
Yeah, so we could keep the costs down, and we get a lot of kids interested. It was great. So I think it's probably like a 1 year and done kind of a thing, but they don't look like they're going to last all that too long outside.
Yeah.
But.
And you did link with the Birdtown folks?
Well, I've met with them afterwards to tell them
Okay.
about it. So yeah, we'll fill them in. Hopefully they can take this and run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like right up their alley. Did you get any sense of what they're up to, or the Birdtown guys?
No, I don't. But they do have a newsletter they send out, and I'm not sure if they have a web page or not. But I'm sure if you did a search for Radnor Audubon Birdtown, if they do have a page, it should come up in a Google search, and then you could probably sign up for a newsletter that they send out occasionally. I get it; it's an e-newsletter. I get it on my email.
Great.
Second thing I did at the elementary school was we did a lunchtime recycling education program. We had 10 volunteers, 10 adult volunteers went in, 2 per day, and we attended every single lunch, and we were like the recycling Nazis, so we guarded the trash cans. Don't you dare come near me with that that number 2 plastic. But no, what we did is we had to educate the kids. Actually, we had to educate the janitorial staff who may have been misinformed about what they are and what they're not allowed to recycle at the school. Turns out they have a private recycling contract there. They don't have the same recycling rules that our commingled township recycling has. So, for instance, they can't do plastics numbers 3 through 7. They can only do plastics numbers 1 and 2, which is a little disappointing.
Yeah.
A lot of the products that they use, they hand out in the kids who buy their lunches, are numbers 3 and 5 and 6. So a lot of the plastics could not be recycled. We actually had to throw them out.
Do we know why they have it?
Well, it turns out that every recycling contractor, or hauler, I should say, takes the recycling goods to a end, they take it somewhere. So wherever they take it is who sets the rules on what they accept. So our township recycling contractor takes it to a place that accepts those numbers, but the one that they take it to does not.
I wonder if we should ask the schools to
I absolutely
look
think-
into a broader
Yeah,
definition of.
I absolutely think so. Yeah.
Maybe we should have a resolution.
Obviously, they have a contract. They have like a 2-year contract or something like that. So
Right.
they can develop an RFP
Right.
that asks people to
To
accept those kind of things.
I
It's
think
not
that
shouldn't be
would
that
be
hard.
That would
There's other challenges that you got to realize. These are kids who are pressed for time. They don't necessarily eat every last drop of yogurt that's in their yogurt container. So, 9 times out of 10, there's at least a quarter of it left in there, and they don't have sinks where you could rinse them out. And all recycling contractors want these things to be rinsed. So, there's some challenges in terms of how are these kids going to properly recycle, even if they did accept numbers 5s.
Well, it seems like this is something that probably some other schools have looked at, and B, there's a kitchen. If it has to be sprayed down or something, is that impossible? I don't know. It'd be interesting to know if other schools have figured out some neat ways of addressing that.
Let me just tell you the good news. The good news is that we've at least tripled the amount of recycled materials that they have been recycling in the past.
Your first last year, I think, when you went, you said it was a disaster.
They
No
weren't
one
recycling
recycled.
just anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was at the end of the day. They had a recycling can that was a third full.
Wow.
Okay, and now it's full, overflowing at the end of the school day. So that's 3 times as much. And a lot of the stuff that they were putting in there, we had to ask them not to put in there anymore. So not only are they recycling more, but they're now finally recycling the proper things, which is great. So we spent 5 days, every day repeating. It's kind of like a repetition, to program to sort of drill it into them to make it more natural. And we actually snuck somebody in there the following week to see if they were still doing it, and they were. So great stuff there. So our plan is now to do this on a lesser scale, at least twice a year. So beginning of the school year, and then after the holidays, after they come back from the holidays, sort of as a refresher.
And did any of the school the teachers or kitchen folks, did they kind of sign up to help out and learn as well, or was
they do at the beginning of each lunch. They occasionally will remind the kids to recycle.
Okay. So
Yep.
they were.
So they're on board. They're on board, and they'll help. Now that they have the facts, they can answer the kids' questions too about what is and what's not recyclable.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that sounds like a program that all the
Yeah.
schools
I
could
mean,
use.
it's back to basics here.
Yeah.
If these kids don't understand how to look at the bottom of a container to see
Right.
numbers, and a lot of the kids they had no idea what we were talking about, the numbers on the bottom.
Wow.
So, this is a great way to do a grassroots, ground up education.
That's
Having little posters or something stuck on the columns in the cafeteria or wherever, just
like a how-to.
pictures.
Here's what we do. Here's what we don't.
We tried something like that a couple of years ago. That didn't work out, but there's got to be something we can do, like have an example, a little mural of what's acceptable for this container. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you were there and were helping, basically telling people what they could and what they couldn't do. I mean, is that what it takes? Is that what is required, or?
Well, we thought it was the best way to kick it off. I think having a poster or whatever would be great to keep it going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I don't know if we've talked about a poster, a general recycling poster for the schools.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe with here are the rules of the road for Radnor schools. And I don't know if it's the same rules for.
I believe it's the entire school district has the
the
same
whole-
contract. JP Mascaro is the hauler.
And do you have a little cheat sheet on what the rules are, or?
Yeah, we did get one from Mascaro. Yeah.
Okay, so that could be integrated into some sort of poster or something.
Oh yeah, but it's not kid friendly, and this really has nothing. A lot of it has nothing to do with the lunchtime recycling.
So it's hard for somebody to understand what it means.
Yeah, the kids don't need to know about cardboard boxes and stuff. They just
Yeah.
need to know about does my applesauce container go in there or
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of translated into the actual lunch
Yeah. Items.
process.
Yeah.
Items. That's interesting. Well, we should talk a little bit more about what other follow-ups there might be, and again, whether a poster would be helpful.
Yeah, I think the next step is going to be to chat with the Ithan and the Radnor elementary schools to see if their committee has any interest in doing the same.
Good.
So, yeah. Sloan, I'm going to turn over the next two community things to you: the car show and the green restaurants. Can you
Sure,
let us know
well,
how that worked out?
The Wheels of Wayne event this last Sunday was the first of what hopefully will be an annual car show, and it was a really fun event. It was very well attended. I think there were over 50 cars, several hundred, if not thousands, of people came to Wayne. I think it was, judging from the busyness of some of the restaurants around, I think it was good for business, and it certainly was a lot of fun. So kudos to the township for pulling that off. It was well organized, and I attended I brought my Chevrolet Volt, and am pleased. I represented the green car contingent, and they held a competition, and it was a heated competition for the greenest car. And I'm humbled to say that that I did win the best and only green car award. It was tight. It was touch and go because there was a 1928 or two 1928 electric. What were they called? But they were electric cars from 1928. But I was worried when I saw that until I saw them in person, and it turned out they were more like go-karts. So.
Yeah, they're in the Memorial Day parade every year.
Are
Those
they?
little
Are
red
they?
things?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're really
little
cool.
go-karts. Yeah.
They're really cool. I talked to the owner, and he showed me a poster where they're referred to. It's an ad from 1928, and they're referred to as cars. So he was like, "Yeah, these are cars." But the Volt kind of edged it out, and I was very, very happy to show the green flag, and hopefully next year I won't win that category, and we'll get a bigger contingent of green vehicles. But it was a lot of fun, and as I said, I think the township did a good job. So that's the
I thought you were going to show us your trophy.
it was too big. I couldn't fit it in. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, as you noted, some interesting green restaurant news. On the WaterSense site, their newsletter referred to an interesting resource, and they say, if you're hungry to find a greener restaurant near you, check out the Green Restaurant Association's Dine Green Restaurant search engine, and there's a link to that, and so you can check out Dine Green. And I hadn't known much about anything about Dine Green, but apparently this is a national nonprofit group that's been in existence since 1990, and it rates restaurants as well as other establishments, manufacturers, and others. But it has a very extensive rating system for, among other things, for restaurants. And the restaurants are, if you're a participating restaurant, you are rated on 7 environmental and related categories, from water efficiency, waste reduction, sustainable furnishings, sustainable food, a very important thing, your energy efficiency, and basically trash efficiency, chemical usage, and pollution reduction. So 7 different categories. If you look at the actual ratings, there are basically 3 categories. A 2-star restaurant, which gets at least 100 points. I won't go into each of the categories, but basically you can generate points by category. A 2-star has 100 points at least. A 3-star restaurant gets at least 175 points across those categories. And a 4-star restaurant will get at least 300 points in those categories. So I looked for local restaurants that were rated, and while there are several in Pennsylvania, there was only one in our area, and it's a restaurant which is called VG in Bryn Mawr on Lancaster Avenue. I haven't yet been there, but I did go online and look at it. It's a vegetarian restaurant. It looked like it had a nice menu of different stuff, falafel and all sorts of different healthy stuff. And their mission is to be the preferred healthier and fresher alternative for fast casual dining. And they talk about lots of issues, including trying to get quick service, but basically really healthy food, and they're committed to make food taste delicious, but also choosing whole grains instead of refined ones, using baking instead of deep frying, natural sweeteners instead of refined sugars, lots of antioxidants, so really cool stuff. It's and I won't read the whole thing. They're developing a relationship with local farmers to reduce their carbon footprint, and
Did you mention how many stars that they got?
well, I'm getting there.
Good.
I'm getting there.
You need to blow the surprise.
No, I'm just looking because they also said they select energy efficient lighting and appliances. They've used recyclable and compostable cups, packaging, bags, and utensils, and they're hoping that this would be kind of a new brand concept. So they may have big plans, but they scored 2 stars on the Dine Green site. And their score was 106 points, so a little bit over the 2-star minimum. And for example, they got 15.5 points for water efficiency by using various faucet aerators, green laundry services, and low water usage spray valves. So I think it sounds like a cool place.
Sounds tough to get 4 stars.
It does, doesn't it? It does. There were two other restaurants in the area that were 3 stars. One is, one is the Terrace at Longwood Gardens, and I don't have a write-up on that. And there's another one in Philadelphia. I don't have the name here, but those were the only restaurants that were green certified in this region, at least by this organization. But we've got one right here, and I think we should, support it and learn more about it. So
Cool. So I guess now you have to check the Inquirer how many bells they get, and WaterSense for how many
that's right.
green stars
That's
they get.
right. But I
That's
think
great.
that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
VG.
That's great. Okay, we don't have any liaison reports today, as there are no liaisons with us. But Dan, we have entered old business. I was wondering if you could tell us how the rain garden planting event at Cowan Park went.
Bravo.
I was there, so I know how well
so
it
was
went.
So this is something that I've been working on with Steve Norsini, Director of Public Works, and a friend at Chanticleer Garden. And all culminated this past Sunday, the day before Earth Day. And I just threw this together in about 20 minutes last night, just took some photos and kind of documented the process. So if you're not familiar with the park, it's in North Wayne. There's a new restroom facility there, small building, and one of the later parts of this effort is Public Works is going to put gutters onto the building and have downspouts. You're actually looking at the rear of the building here. That's a little storage room entrance there. But there'll be downspouts from either side of the roof coming across the sidewalk and then draining into the rain garden. Now, this is before any construction, but you can see this was some water that was pooled there. I think I took this in mid-March, so there's definitely runoff getting there. And then I put together a couple sketches for Steve to give to his crews. I had met out there with him, and we talked about, generally the size and location that we were looking for. And then Steve got his guys out there, and in the upper left, they dug a nice big hole. It's probably 2.5 to 3 feet deep. That thing you see running down the middle there is actually a foundation of the old restroom building that was there, just an old concrete foundation, so they left that in place. And then they brought in a special soil mix, very sandy soil mix, but still has some organic content, and filled the hole in. And then Bill Thomas, the director of Chanticleer, was generous enough to donate over 200 plants to us for the planting. And one of the horticulturalists there, Lisa Roper, prepared a plant, picked out species that would do well both in a wet condition, but then could tolerate dry periods, and prepared a little planting plan for us. And then Sunday we had the Friends of Cowan Park and some Radnor Birdtown folks, and actually 4 EAC members, including Josh and Sloan, showed up, and Ann and her husband. And Public Works had delivered a load of leaf mulch from Skunk Hollow. So first we spread a few inches of that over the sandy soil that had been placed there. It's going to help keep the thing moist and keep down weeds, and also then provide nutrients to the plants as those break down. And then we laid out the areas to plant with some ropes, and everybody went to town. And we did this all in less than an hour. I think it was like 55 minutes. And so right now it's looking a little scrawny. I was just out there tonight. I'm taking on watering it for the first year. Just needs an inch of water a week, and I'm just going to ride my bike over there once a week and set a sprinkler up and just run that for an hour. But these are really neat plants. They're going to be 3 to 7 feet tall, so give it a few months, and we're going to have some really nice growth there. These are selected to bloom throughout the summer, sort of different periods of the summer and the fall, so we'll get sort of bursts of color throughout the season. Then in the winter, everything's just going to turn brown, and we just leave it there over winter. It provides shelter for birds. And in March, we'll organize another effort, and you just go and cut everything down to the ground, and it starts all over again. So that's pretty much it. So
This is a really terrific effort, which I, being a neighbor, I really appreciate. Could I ask a little bit on the design, if you go back to the
Sure.
design? Back a couple of screens where you kind of sketched it. Yeah, you sketched this out.
yeah, I went out and just sort of measured out the site, so I generally knew what we were dealing with there. And I design these for a living, so it's a real standard thing. It is really just a hole in the ground with some more soil that has more pore space in it than a typical topsoil or something might have. I did some quick calculations, and I think I worked out that this might store like 5,000 to 6,000 gallons of water just in the pore spaces of that soil. I'd have to go back and double check the math, but.
And is it the kind of thing where you sort of did a little bit of calculation based on the size of the building and the
That's
area?
normally how you would do it, but in this case, we had only so much area to work in, and
Okay.
so we just kind of made it a size that seemed to fit the area. It's a drop in the bucket, obviously, in the watershed, but it's the kind of thing that, I think what I like about this is that once we get those gutters on that building, it's going to be a real example of, hey, I could do that on my garage or, my porch. It doesn't necessarily have to be your entire house, but there may be opportunities for people to do this on their own
That's what
properties.
I was very encouraged by myself, because I had concerns about it having to have some sort of complex system under the ground, or very basically more complicated than
What's going to happen here, and you can kind of see it in this slide if you look at the lower right one there. There's sort of that puddle, and you can sort of see a little trail of water. You can also see it in the upper left there, a little trail heading away from where the photos are taken. And that's kind of an overflow. So if there's ever just a big deluge, this thing will just fill up, and there'll be standing water there, and then that's sort of an overflow swale that'll flow out there before it would flood the building. So same thing in your yard. You would just design it with some sort of a low point that would then drain off where it's draining now anyway, right? So really what you're doing is you're just capturing some of the water. We're not trying to comply with any sort of stormwater regulation here,
Right.
so it doesn't have to have a certain amount or
Right.
release it at any certain rate.
And it doesn't have to be an actual
No.
depression.
In fact, this we just made flat when we sort of spread it
Right.
out. It is sort of a depression there.
Naturally.
Sort of matched it's what Steve created when they replaced this building.
But it's not sort of noticeably it's not like a
Bowl-shaped or
bowl
anything. No,
or anything like
it can
that.
be flat.
Right.
And you could even do something like this at a very small one at the bottom of your downspouts in your yard, right?
Really? What size?
Yeah, again, anything is going to take water out of the runoff. So
Just even a few feet by a few feet?
couple feet by a couple feet, yeah. And that again could be flat. Again, if you can keep some kind of something to at least slow the water down so it has a chance to sink in there. I wouldn't put it at the bottom of a downspout that is on a slope, right? Because it's just going to sort of run across the
Right.
surface. And
And
go
what
away.
would you plant around in that kind of one?
There's a million resources online. These plants here that the horticulturist picked, again, they can take being, sort of sitting in wet water for periods of time, in wet soil for periods of time, but that can also withstand periods of drought. So,
Right.
so the thing with the first year is, we need to get the roots deep so that as this thing goes into dry periods and it starts to dry out from the surface down, they're still tapping into some water to make it to the next rainfall event.
And the materials, the cost of just the materials, would you estimate for something of this size if you went
Yeah,
out?
I don't have a good number on the soil. it's hard to imagine that that would be more than a few $100s. And then this was plants, I think Chanticleer was a little over $200, and we got about 200 plants, like landscape plugs. And that was their wholesale number, so it, maybe if you did it on your own, I don't know, maybe it'd be $300 or something.
Right.
But, are you going to do something this big in your yard? I don't know. I think, and the other thing is this thing went 2.5, 3 feet deep. I mean, you could go 6 inches deep, if you just wanted to do it yourself. It's really just about creating a little, sort of a little bucket for some water to get in the ground and then hopefully infiltrate.
So if we're going to start looking at sustainable parks policy, I'm thinking this is the kind of thing we want to be keeping in mind,
Yes,
along
it'd
with.
be great, right? You could have one of these for each of the restroom areas restroom
Right.
areas at all the parks.
Right.
It's just sort of part of the
Standard.
system, assuming there's area nearby
Right.
to make it work.
Right.
And then I'm talking with Steve. We'll see if we can make it happen. At Cowan, there's a asphalt basketball court, and then there's sort of a 15-foot wide strip of mown grass between the court and the creek. And I'm talking to him like there's no reason for that to be turf grass, and you're out there mowing it and using gas and making noise right against people's backyards. Let's get that up and just put down like a meadow grass, and then you don't mow it. Maybe once a year you sort of chop it down a bit, but you're not worried about weeds, and you're not using fertilizers and gasoline to mow it and so on.
Right.
And anywhere that we can find a park that has a creek running through it, there's lots of opportunities there to create that buffer.
Well, I mean, to the extent that there could be other good places around the township for this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think, I had a blast helping, and I think it was just very interesting, and it was great to see the community come out.
Yeah,
and do
yeah.
this.
I think almost half of it was children. I would say
Yeah.
under the age of 12, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great to see.
Yeah.
And,
We ought to give a shout out to the Friends of Cowan Park.
That's
yep,
right.
Yep.
Yes,
And,
this is right there is Radnor Street Road, I believe, is a street that
Right,
runs
that's
along
right.
there, and
Yeah.
then teeing into that right at the by this building is Willow.
Right.
And a lot of the families on those two streets in there are sort of just forming a new group, Friends of Cowan Park, I guess, to
Mhm.
talk about improvement projects and whatnot.
Right, and
Are
these
you going to make these available? Are we going to make them available online, or are you going to share them out with the team? I think getting those plant species out there and
Yeah.
this basic, I think, would be really good
Yeah,
information.
that's
Like
fine. I mean,
like
I
the
can
basic specs.
get this. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I've
I
got it in a
think-
PDF form too, so
Yeah.
you don't necessarily need PowerPoint
Yeah.
to run it.
Yeah, I think.
Just need Adobe.
And this community is very sensitive to water issues. They have a lot of flooding.
Yeah, one of the guys was talking
Yeah.
about his
It's
basement
really-
was a lake every time.
Yeah. Yeah, they've
the rain
had
came.
cars moved and, through the storms and stuff, so it's a definite big deal.
Well, thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Great presentation.
Yeah.
Great pictures. Even though-
Fantastic
Even my
project.
pale legs there.
Well, I cut out the photos where you and Sloan were just leaning on your shovel.
Smoking a stogie.
It was a beautiful day for it.
It
It was
was
great.
Yeah, it was
fantastic.
great.
Thank you.
It was fantastic.
Is there any other old business? Dan, you have any other old business?
I do not.
How about new business? Well, if there are no other new business, then I will suggest there's probably not any public comment and that we adjourn the meeting. Thanks, guys.